Hey people, how y'all doing? It's your boy Mo Better in real life with Mo Better. Today I want to talk to you about something that is one that has been plaguing people for a very, very long time. And it comes from multiple reasons and multiple sources. The thing is that it is something that can be defeated. It is something that can be turned around and made to, it can put you in a better place. From a biblical and a scientific perspective, today we're going to talk about self-esteem and to whom it matters most. Well, people know what self-esteem is. I heard Money Mike, the comedian, talk about it, and he said, self-esteem. How can somebody break your self-esteem down when it belongs to you? That's funny, but at the same time, it can and it does happen. Self-esteem is a term used in psychology to reflect a person's overall emotional evaluation of his or her own worth. It is a judgment of oneself as well as an attitude towards self. It is a positive or negative evaluation of the self as in how we feel about it. It is also known as the evaluative dimensions of the self that includes feelings of worthiness, worthlessness, pride, discouragement, and positive and negative situations of the emotions. Self-esteem is also closely associated with self-consciousness. Consciousness is also synonymous with awareness or the knowing. Again, there are many reasons as to why one could have low self-esteem. Coming up as a child, we could hear you ain't nothing. You're just like your mother or father in the negative sense. You're retarded, stupid, a dummy, a liar, and all kinds of things of that nature. We could have even been bullied. And you see, as a kid, this can play a major role in developing and the development of the mind, emotions, and self-esteem, and awareness of concerning who we think we are and how we feel about ourselves. Again, our self-esteem. This is one of the reasons why the Most High says that in Matthew 18:3 that his kingdom belongs to those who are as children. And also one of the reasons as to why he puts not just discipline but such punishment on those who defile and or misleads a child. You can read that at Luke 17:1 and 2, where it talks about where if you mislead a child, it would be better for you to tie a millstone around your neck and hurl it into the sea. That means that you're not going to get away from what's going on, from his discipline, from what you did to a child. See, when we are children, we are at our most vulnerable or our most vulnerable states. And we are the close to purity as Adam and Eve as we can be in this lifetime. Why is the kingdom available to those who are like children? It's because they are willing to listen and learn. The most valuable questions come from children that are sold in books as lessons written by doctors and psychiatrists all over the world, sold for millions and millions of dollars. And guess what those questions are? The five W's: who, what, when, where, and why, right? A child will ask these questions as long as they can or until you say, hey, let mommy, daddy, whatever you are, let me go to sleep right now, or let me finish this right now. If you have children, you know what I mean. But see, at the same time, even when they're gone, you're still like, I wonder why, I wonder who, I wonder when, I wonder what. Those are very, very powerful questions. This learning process makes them vulnerable. They will take in anything that you tell them, teach them, and that they hear. Even though you ain't nothings, dummies, I hate yous, and you're like you're nothing, mommy or daddy. The retards, dummies, and stupids as well, which makes them susceptible to bullies, gangs, and drugs later on in life. Now, what happens or can happen to a child that is being groomed this way? The mind is the most complex instrument on the planet. The human brain consists of about 1 billion neurons. Each neuron forms about 1,000 connections to other neurons, amounting to more than a trillion connections. If each neuron could only help store a single memory, running out of space would be a problem. You might have only a few gigabytes of storage space, similar to the space in an iPod or a USB flash drive, things we use, little cameras and things of that nature. However, neurons combine so that each one helps with many memories at a time, exponentially increasing the brain's memory storage capacity to something closer to around 2.5 petabytes. That's a petabyte. Now we talk about gigabytes and things of that nature, and like those of us who do music and movies and things of that nature, we think we're talking about something. We get a terabyte, but this is beyond that. Now we're talking about a petabyte. A petabyte is, or I'll say, over 1,000,000 gigabytes. Now, for that comparison, if your brain worked like a digital video recorder in a television, 2.5 petabytes would be enough to hold 3 million hours of TV shows. But you would have to leave the TV running continuously for more than 300 years to set up all of the storage. To use up all that storage, 300 years. That's the capacity that you have in your brain. Each one of us have in our brains. I say that to say this. Your mind never forgets anything that is put into it. You have a thing called the subconscious, which is the part of the mind of which one is not fully aware of, but which influences one's actions and feelings. So even though you may not remember a thing right now or outright, but it can still and it does affect you if you allow it to. So that means that you can do something about that. Have you ever been in a situation calmly or aggressively, and after you have reacted or saw someone else react, the question was, how did you do that? Or where did that come from? Or even, I don't know how I did that. Guess what? You saw or heard this from somewhere before, and although you forgot it up front, it was still in your mind. And when a situation presented itself, your subconscious shot this to the fore and caused you to react now in a good or a bad way. So hearing the negative name callings, bullies, and beatings can create what we consider or what they call post-trauma. Now, post-trauma is a mental health condition sometimes, but it is a condition. And it's triggered by terrifying events, either experiencing it or witnessing it. Sometimes, or some symptoms may include the flashbacks, nightmares, and severe anxiety, as well as uncontrollable thoughts about the event. Ever experienced that? It's post-trauma. Many people who go through traumatic events have difficulty adjusting and coping for a while, but they don't have PTSD, the syndrome or the disorder naturally. Sometimes it's just bad memories. And in time, and good self care, you usually can get over it. But if the symptoms get worse or last for months or even years and interfere with your functioning like everyday life, you might need to go communicate with somebody and see that make sure that it's not the PTSD. Now, if you don't feel that you're doing anything wrong when if you still feel that you're not doing anything wrong when you speak to a child or even an adult in a degrading way, you're wrong. That's why it's considered to be disrespect and abuse. And it therefore can cause trauma in how a person deals with everyday life. Sometimes friction is good, but in most cases, it is a bad thing. Friction is caused when one goes against the grain. Fire can be created, which is a destructive force for most things that go into it. That is the same thing for your mind or your self-esteem. I don't know about yours, but I know my God cannot make anything bad. I also know that when a man and a woman was made, he looked at everything that was made and said, it is very good. That's Genesis 1:31. And we are given the mandate to make many more very good offspring through procreation. So you see, from the beginning, you were made and procreated to be very good. So it is engineered and genetically in our makeup to be good. And one's self-esteem can be lowered when we are told or go through situations that are against the grain of what is naturally causing post-trauma or low self-esteem. You see, how do we beat and reverse that? We reverse what we feel and think of ourselves by learning and therefore regaining our value. That very good that our God made needs to be reintroduced to ourselves. Now, how solid do you stand on something that you know? Would you die for it? Most people will be like, man, you can't tell me nothing about so and so or such and such. I know. So if you'll die for it, why not live for it as well? Regardless of what you have been told, I want you to really not just think about, but feel how you got here and who you matter to before a personal thing caused you to have low self-esteem. We're going to take this all the way back. What are your chances of being here? That's what I want you to think about. See, first your mother and father had to meet. What were the chances of that? What were the chances of that? What were the chances of them to remain and or staying together long enough to go beyond attraction to I dig you or want to be with you among the many other people they went to school with, lived on the same street with, lived in the same neighborhood with, saw in the mall, at the park, or at the movies that day? Why did they stick together? Rather, it was a night or long-term relationship would allow them to get to I want to be with you intimately, the beginning of you. One night, they had wild, passionate sex and love that manifested physical, spontaneous combustion called a climax or orgasm. At this time, between 3 and 500 million other than could have been used came out. Thousands upon thousands never made it out of your dad, dying in the acid that is in his urine. And thousands upon thousands also died entering your mother's womb due to the same causes. Yet, millions upon millions, including you, began to swim to a place that you had to make it to in order to continue to exist. Guess what? Without a map. Many more thousands passed away on the way at this time as well. Now, think about this. Now you have to make it through the cervix. As many of others strayed away, remaining in the vagina, dying off. Get this. Just because he came in your mother orgasm doesn't mean that you had to be here. You see, the cervix you had to pass through is only open at a particular time for a small amount of time. And many more millions die here as well, getting caught in the folds of the cervix. But you made it at that time. You, so to speak, caught that bus and is on your way to the egg. But you're not done with your fight. See, inside the uterus, your swim continues with cells inside your mother that at times confuse sperm cells with objects that do actually not belong in her body. So what they do is they fight and thinking you're a germ and they kill you. So more sperm cells die now. Now, when still maybe half up to 3 to 500 million are still alive and swimming towards the fertilized egg, as the other half, without a map, swim to a tube that is not fertilized. They think the egg is here, but they go somewhere else. Guess what? You don't. Do you know that out of 3 to 500 million could have been other than yous? Only a few dozen actually make it to the fertilized egg. Now there is a layer on top of the egg called the zona pellucida that the sperm have to push through to even attempt to penetrate the egg. You're watching this video with me right now because out of the 3 to 500 million sperm cells that made it, you did because there was a purpose for you. As soon as you penetrated the egg began to fuse with you and pull you in for protection, began a transformation as it fights other sperm from penetrating the egg. Inside the egg, the sperm you transform into, it produces 23 chromosomes for the male perspective and another 23 chromosomes for the female perspective. These 64 chromosomes connect and begin to form the gender of the child, male or female, eye color, hair texture, bone structure, height, and your genetic code. You at this time become a zygote, the beginning of a human being, the very good that the Most High made us to be. Now, for the next 3 days, the fertilized egg, the zygote, with you in it has to swim another 3 to 4 days down the fallopian tubes to the uterus in order to be implanted inside the uterus for the next 9 months. Now, I want to ask how many of you today can swim through acids against undertows, fight enemies that are trying to really kill you, and not run or walk, but swim against currents into places that you have never been and be the first one there without a map out of 3 to 500 million. After that, take another 3-day journey to another place that you have never been and without another map. Do you think you can survive that kind of task today? Like coming out unscathed. Do you think that's possible? See, this is actually the equivalent of a person born in the heart of the city all their life, not even being involved with Boy Scouts or Girl Scouts. You know what I'm saying? You don't know how to strike matches. You don't know how to start a fire, compass, read the North Star, none of that, right? You being dropped in the middle of the Congo jungle, a place that has never been penetrated by man, full of piranhas, lions, tigers, and some of the most venomous plants and insects and reptiles known to man. But guess what? You make it back to your city doorstep without a scratch. And remember, you didn't have a map. Do you understand that? Do you really understand that this is the equivalent of your father's ejaculation to you being implanted in the wall of the uterus? Now I want you to think about, so you can fully understand, that you did all of this without a brain. How did you do that? You did that because you mattered most to one who allowed you to exist, the one who establishes existence itself. Are you catching or reattaching your value to self now? Seeing how important you are? Now I want to ask you a question. We talk about people of import. And these two, so to speak, right now. Now, if Jay-Z or Beyonce spoke your name and said who you are directly in a song or at a concert, and everyone knew that they were talking about you, how would that make you feel? I'm not talking about a John. I'm talking about John lives on 3rd Street in the Green and White House, so everybody knew it was you. Because someone who you deem to be important mentioned you, that makes you feel good and elated, right? So how much more so should you feel about the one who created the universes, mentioning your name or allowing you to be here, finding purpose and value in you to even be here, to be that one out of 3 to 500 million that made it, the one. That's way bigger than Jay-Z and Beyonce speaking your name, huh? So how should that make you feel? We were once a single cell organism, so small that we needed to be magnified over 50,000 times to be seen, still just the mere size of a pinhead, and made into who and what we are today because the Most High made us very good. Say that with me. The Most High made me very good. Now, if the one in whom it should matter most says he made you very good, what someone else says that goes against that grain of what you know to be very good should not and or should no longer keep mattering and bothering you in negative senses. Nothing changes overnight, but as you continue to study and therefore continuously learn about the value of self, becoming aware of who you are, when others say things that go against the truth that the most important being in existence made you valuable, important, and with a purpose, what they say should begin to slide right off your back, like they say, like water on a duck's back. If something is still bothering you that took place long ago, think about the successes you have instead of the failings. The only time you should dwell on the past is not to think about the wrong you did, but how to make it better and how to not do it again in a process of learning. Not focusing on the fail. If you were once a single cell, as small about as spoken above earlier, and still accomplished the things you did with no arms, no legs, no brain, what can you now accomplish and what can you not accomplish as the over 100 trillion cell organism you are today, with arms, with legs, and with the brain that holds the capacity of 2.5 petabytes? From this point on, when you feel low or that your esteem is ebbing, think about the mathematical impossibility that you have accomplished and, yes, have succeeded in, and why. Pick your chin up and walk with your shoulders straight and say, I'm important to whom it matters most.